Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Not to brag, but I just went into another room and actually remembered why I went in there.
It
was the bathroom, but still, take the accomplishments where you can.
Now, normally,
how about yourself? How are you doing?
Normally, I don't complain a lot about my office job, but oh my God, today was a Frelin nightmare. I have learned over the last few months that I am lactose intolerant. I like to think I'm a very tolerant person, but lactose, I no longer tolerate it. And I had cheese last night.
I think you're milking it, but go ahead. Yeah.
And normally cheese doesn't give me a problem, but today it started to.
Uh-oh.
And, you know, I am on phones. So I'm on the phone with a woman who, first off, I know that most of our listeners won't do this, but when I'm helping you log into a website, which actually is, you know, if you listen and follow the instructions, easiest thing in the world. If you don't listen and don't follow instructions, this thing is broken. Woman's 45. I'm too old for this technological shit. I restrained myself and did not say, I'm over a decade older than you, and it's easy. You're just stupid. No. It's okay. You've entered this. You're going to get an email. It'll be from this email address. Silence. Have you been able to log in? I'm still looking for the email. Give the email address again. And then my stomach tells me, Cory, you need to go to the bathroom right now. Ma'am, may I place you on a brief hold? Okay. Put her on hold. Make it to the bathroom in time. Get back. What was the email? You didn't tell me. So for the third time, I give her the email. It's there. Takes her 5 minutes to set up a password because she doesn't understand that when it says it needs to have a letter, a number, and a special character, and at least 8 characters long. You have to do all 4 of those things, not just one of them. Did you put a number in there? Oh, no, I didn't. You need to put a number in there. Did you put a special character like an exclamation point? Oh, no, I didn't. Did you put something like an exclamation point or a $sign or something? No. How long was your password? 6 numbers. We get all done. Why didn't you tell me what the email was? I explained that I thought I had told her, etc., etc. Why did you put me on hold? That was very rude. Well, I had to put you on hold. I did ask if I could put you on hold, and you said, okay. No, I didn't. I'm not going to argue with her. Again, I apologize that I misunderstood.
That's okay, ma'am. We got this on tape, so that's okay.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood. Here's the survey. I listened to her survey. He never gave me the email address, and he put me on hold without notice. Now, when your stomach is telling you, I'm going to make a big brown stain in your chair if you don't hurry up, you don't process everything correctly. I listened to the call. I gave her the email address 3 times. I asked her, may I please place you on hold? She said, okay. So, I don't know.
People are only alive because it's illegal to push them off the edge of the earth.
I'm wondering, Joe, does she know how to feed herself?
It's hard to say. I got to tell you, though, it had to have been something going on this weekend because I ended up at the last minute on Thursday, and I'm bragging at the moment, going to an Eric Clapton concert, which was really cool because my wife's friend was sick, stomach sick. And she's like, do you want to go? And I'm like, okay. Because again, I suffer from the what I call I don't want to do anything itis, which a lot of my friends have because they're putzes. But I also subscribe to the Shatner method of life. Say yes, because I knew once I got there, it was Jimmy Vaughn, Eric Clapton. I knew I'd have a great time. So, and I did.
And he'd tell you that if you got a vaccine, you were poisoned.
Hard to say because he didn't look good on stage, but that's a different subject. But
what
I'm getting at is before we went to the concert, we went to Louis. I'm trying to. Oh, thanks. They've got one of those fancy websites where it keeps changing sites, and I'm trying to. Oh, there it is. Louis Restaurante and Bar. It's on top of Casetas, downtown Minneapolis. I'm sorry, downtown St. Paul, right next to the River Center. So we got down there. Here's how you know Chris and I are getting old. We don't care that we pay $30 to park close. Used to be I would park like in this real convoluted way, and there was a certain way, find this dirt field, and no one could find it because only me could find it, and then I'd walk over to the River Center. But now it's like, fudge it. We're parking close. We can walk to the restaurant. We can walk there, and then we can walk home. So, anyways, I went there. I had a great steak dinner. The next day was my class reunion, 40th anniversary. Again, another, but I went and you see people I haven't seen. Well, some in 5 years, some in more. But I do get to connect with some of my best friends who went to school. It was fine. And, I had a nice burger there as well. And then I spent the weekend with what I call classic rot gut. Because you're like, oh, this isn't good. Wait, I can ease it. I do believe I just sharted in my pants. So I'm thinking it was something going on. Either the comet was too close, or there was a lot of sunspots, or just something in the air. Because again, my wife's friend, me, you, it wasn't a good weekend for guts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's not
why we're here.
No.
We're here to talk about the shit that all these comic companies are putting out in, December?
I think so. This is
December
your interactive
yeah.
preview edition. So if you're so inclined, grab your previews. This is number 420 for September 23.
420. Woo!
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Now legal in Minnesota.
But remind me, if I don't remember, remind me at Geeking about that. The Marvel previews catalog is number 24. The DC Connect is number 40. The Image doesn't have one. We'll get to that later. Cover the cover, Cory.
On the comic side, it is a boombox comic. Zawa and the Belly of the Beast, the GLAAD Award-winning and Eisner Award-nominated cartoonist Michael Diamis returns with a all-ages fantasy epic. On the spine is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. And on the back is a Walking Dead Michonne PVC diorama. So you can tell that all the major publishers have left Image. Have left Diamond.
Yeah. And this is something too we've talked about a lot where, yeah, it's fine, you're on Kickstarter, but I want to pay $15 a pop for every comic that you're popping out. But then I also think on the other end of the spectrum where you get the incredible Kickstarter for Neil Gaiman and Colleen Doran doing Good Omen, which I believe they went to all the major publishers and they're like, okay, we got Neil Gaiman here. And all they wanted to do was a quickie, cheap book. No one wanted to do a real big collector type, beautiful volume of this particular story. So they said, Kickstarter. What have they raised? $2 million, $3 million. I mean,
I think it's a record for a comic.
Scary, yeah. So again,
Almonds.
It's not really. It's a goofy ass market right now for comic books. And again, Cory and I, we debate whether, well, this is a late preview show. But even if you listen to us and you hear something you like, call your comic book store, your local comic book store, and tell them, hey, I'd like to get this, because pre-orders are going to keep them alive. I mean, what happened to Valiant? They're not. Are they even publishing books?
No, they have canceled everything.
IDW just posted a huge loss again. So it's ugly out there, but do what you can, because you have the power to keep your local comic book shop in business, or your favorite comic creators on Kickstarter.
All right, the Kickstarter graphic novel. Let's see here, £2 million. By the way, it was fully funded in 10 minutes, which is a Kickstarter record. So there's that. Why don't we start
so
with
that
Marvel?
is $2.4 million.
Oh, wow. The pound is about $1 now.
Yeah, it's actually dropped quite a bit, but it's almost like a 1.24. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Although it is kind of a sidebar, which is why we're doing the preview stuff.
I imagine that Dark Horse is kicking themselves because they've been publishing all of these Neil Gaiman books. And for them to kind of pass it over either means A, they're having some cash flow problems, or B, they're idiots.
I don't know, man. They've just decided to go with the generic previews listing rather than their own pages. So who knows?
Dark Horse is they're distributed through the same distributor as Marvel now.
Yeah, but they have control over what they put in previews, just like Image and everybody else does. So whatever.
Well, let's start with Marvel.
All right. Grab my Marvel catalog here and my Marvel list. I've got 2 things. Oh, wait, Marvel. I'm sorry. Marvel. Okay, start on page 2. Superior Spider-Man #1. Spider-Man faces a new villain from his superior past. As she fries New York with all the power of a living star, Doc Ock makes a life-changing discovery. Mark Bagley and Dan Slott are continuing their Spider-Man run in this 10th anniversary celebration of everything that made Spider-Man superior. So,
it does not say if this is a series, a one-shot, or whatever, but it is taking the place of Spider-Man for a bit.
Yeah. Which probably ties in because I think isn't Spider-Boy got his own series somewhere?
Yes, Spider-Boy will have his own series.
Yeah, last week. Last one.
This is a 40-page comic for $6.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, I was talking with somebody who's, man, Marvel just raised their prices on books. I can't believe they're doing it again. And I looked back, and they started raising the books from $2.99 to $3.99 in 2004. So it's been almost 20 years. Yes, it's a bad price hike. No price hikes are good. But they kept the same price for 20 years. Well, 19. They haven't done that since comics were a dime.
Yeah.
So, but I also like that it means that comic fans are like, they just raised prices. No, you're old.
Yep.
Because if something is over a decade ago, you can't say they just.
Although I will tell you, it is making me decide, before it used to be like, oh, I'll just pick this up for the heck of it. Now I'm like, maybe not. Not at $6 a pop.
Now, I think in the podcast that's coming, where you recorded part and I recorded part, I go into this price hike. So I'm not going to do it here.
Okay.
But on the next page is Deadpool 7 Slaughters, which is an 80-page book. for $9.99. So they haven't raised the prices on the books that are much thicker. There are a lot of number ones in this, and most of them I am not interested in. And the others there's a lot of miniseries too.
Oh yeah, that, and we've seen that before. Marvel did that at the end of the 90s. The only difference then is they would do 3-issue miniseries, so a comic retailer couldn't quite judge how to order the bloody thing, and they didn't have final cutoff dates. So if it became popular, you could order more or you could order less. One of the miniseries that did catch my eyes on page 8, Marvel Superhero Secret Wars Battle World. This says after nearly 40 years, the mysteries of the Secret Wars deepen. And it basically is a battle from when Spider-Man got his alien costume, when a mysterious being called the Beyonder assembled the superheroes and villains from Earth to do battle on a patchwork planet. Sort of an untold adventure. We talked about that too. I mean, for a 40-year-old series, is this really going to get a new reader into it? Caught my eye because I was around when the original Secret Wars came out. And of course, they're putting it both Secret Wars and Battle World, which was tied into the the new one, Secret Wars, where Doom was God. So, 4-issue series, Tom DeFalco. How do you pronounce his name? Pat?
Olaf,
thank you. Tons of variant covers, tremendous amounts of variant covers. What do you got next?
I'm not buying this, so I want to point it out, though. No matter how stupid the story was, Marvel is going to revisit it.
Oh, sure.
Because we got Daredevil, Black Armor. Yes, this is the story where Daredevil wore armor. Never mind the fact that one of his powers is that he has heightened senses, so that the armor would dull his senses. By D.G. Chichester, who wrote the original.
Again, weren't we just talking about that? Let's get the original guys back to rewrite and revisit stuff. Again, this is more of a nostalgia thing.
Oh, it's a pure nostalgia pop.
Yeah. And since I checked out of Daredevil by then.
This was also a point where Daredevil sales were in the toilet.
Yeah. Although it was a pretty cool action figure. On the next page.
I do want to point out on page. I wish I had page numbers on the. Howard the Duck #1 by Chip Zdarsky.
Yep, that's on page 16.
It is a 40-page one-shot to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Howard the Duck.
Yeah, tons of variant covers, tremendous amounts of variant covers. If you're playing along in the book, back one page on 14, Thanos, 4-issue miniseries, Thanos vs. the Illuminati. The Mad Titan descends upon Earth to retrieve something he has lost. The Illuminati must band together to stop him because they're the ones who hid it from him. I like Thanos.
There is a new Thunderbolt series.
Yeah.
This one, Bucky Barnes is going to be leading the team. We've got Countess Valentia Allegra di Fontana. And then, let's see, a team of Black Hawk heavy hitters to pursue high-profile targets like the Red Skull, Kingpin, even Doctor Doom himself. On the cover, it's the 2 Black Widows, Shang-Chi. That looks like Silver Sable, but I'm not 100% sure.
There is US a White Widow running around.
Yeah. U.S. Agent and D-Man.
And they are...
The return of D-Man, Joe.
They are going after high-profile targets like Red Skull, Kingpin, and even Doctor Doom.
Yeah, I just said that.
We'll see how this happens. Well, but you derailed everybody at D-Man, so I had to get you back on track. Or you could just go to page 20. Punisher's back. Is this the return of Frank Castle or the start of something else? Frank Castle's disappeared, but evil will always need to be punished. With the all-new threats rising to claim innocent victims, criminals need to beware of a dangerous vigilante hunting them from the shadows. Who is the new Punisher? What put him on his path of vengeance? And when the smoke clears, will even he make it out alive? They call it John Wick meets The Fugitive. You can be the judge.
I want to see. I'm not buying this sight unseen. I want to see what they're doing with it. Next up is a huge Spider-Man crossover again.
I'm checking out.
This one is Gang War, which will determine once and for all who's in charge of the criminal gangs in New York, which is a good trope for Spider-Man to go back to every so often. We've got Hobgoblin, Mr. Negative, the Owl, Shotgun, Diamondback, AIM, Hydra, and more battle with and against each other for New York supremacy. Gonna take, 3 months of the Spider-Man books and a bunch of miniseries that tie into it. I guess this is what works for Spider-Man because they keep doing it and it keeps selling.
Really, I passed over all the gang war thing. I will probably pick it up in if there's a complete gang war or an omnibus or something. But I read Amazing Spider-Man, but I'm not going to jump into 1,001 different books just to say the crossover. I'm actually, the next one I'm looking at is way in the back on page 64. And it's the facsimile editions for the month. This month they're doing Uncanny X-Men 141 and 142, which is the first time we got Days of Future Past. It's written by Chris Claremont and John Byrne with John Byrne's pencils back when he cared. This is really good stuff. And if you've never read them and you don't have the $20, $30 to go buy the back issues, and for some reason have never picked them up in any other form, this is a good way to pick it up. Plus you get to play around, look at the ads and the letter column and things like that. So it's a 1-2 story and they're publishing both parts at the same time. So that's kind of cool.
There, you did skip over a couple on page 34, however, that I'm picking up.
I skipped over those because I'm not picking them up.
Ultimate
by the way, that
Universe.
Right before that is the White Widow. I don't know if that's the one you were asking about on Thunderbolts.
Yep.
Okay, but still, the one above, is that who you're thinking with the jawline? Is that who you're thinking was Silver Sable?
The one with all the stuff on her face.
Yeah. No, that one. Yeah, I don't know who that is. We'll find out.
On page 34, Ultimate Universe #1, Jonathan Hickman. After the world's shaking conclusion of Ultimate Invasion, the issue of a new team of heroes bands together to save the future. This is the foundational issue for the new line of Ultimate Comics. Odd that it's getting only a half page. And right underneath it, Spider-Boy #1.
And you know why I probably skipped these? Because Marvel did that dumbass thing where they actually solicited it last month. So it's somewhere in my notes. I was like, oh, I must have talked about that last month. No, we didn't. Spider-Boy we did.
Yeah.
Actually,
and
you know what?
Jonathan Hickman, I will pick up anything.
I take that back. We did talk about him last month. I'm looking at my notes, both Ultimate Universe and Spider-Boy. So they're re-soliciting this.
Already.
Yeah. You didn't order it the first time. What's wrong with you people?
And the rest are issues of series and miniseries that are already going.
Or finishing.
Yep. So for me, it goes back. Oh, there is another new Alien #1. It looks like Marvel's going to do the series of miniseries that Dark Horse did rather than a regular series like they said they were going to do. So that gives me a headache.
On page 65, you got X-Men Blue Origins #1, which is the origins, the definitive Nightcrawler origin story. So if you don't know, or you think you know, this you should pick up. It is a one-shot, so I picked it up just because I happen to, enjoy him running around as the, what did he call himself? The Ultimate Spider-Man? I can't remember. I thought it's funny that in order to hide from Orcus, he dresses up like another Spider-Man. So.
Yeah.
On page, I got one Star Wars thing, because usually I don't. But I wanted to point out on page 88, Star Wars Visions, Peach, Momoko. She's doing it. All of it. Writing it, drawing it, variant covers. So that one definitely caught my attention because I do enjoy her art. And that's about it for me.
When it comes to trades and omnibuses, there are a lot of reprints and a lot of stuff that I'm not interested in.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You mean you are not going to buy Secret Wars 2 trade paperback, the new printing?
No.
Okay, well, I guess I was crossing off my list. Whatever.
Now, Captain America Omnibus Volume 4 is a reprint of the Captain America by Jack Kirby omnibus that came out a few years ago. The Spider-Man 2099 omnibus Volume 2 is actually all the stuff that came after the original 2099 run. So this is all the mini-series and tie-in series and crossovers and things like that that have happened since the 2099 universe was shut down. We have Daredevil Omnibus number 3. And these stories are not good.
I don't know, Cory, you should.
Daredevil was a third string hero that in a lot of cases was Stan Lee kind of doing the Spider-Man shtick with a very similar character and just allowing the goofiness to completely take over. Talked a little bit about Gary Conway did an interview about Daredevil, and he said it was his first book and it took him about a year and a half to get his feet under him. And then after he got his feet under him, he found the character bored him. Steve Gerber came on and he did a couple of years. And again, this was kind of where you learned how to write superhero books because you really couldn't screw up Daredevil that bad. It did go bi-monthly by the end of this run. And this was also the time when Black Widow was his girlfriend. Very mediocre books. Only get it if you're a hardcore Daredevil fan. These are really mediocre comics. We got a reprint of Daredevil by Brubaker and Lark, a reprint of Ghost Rider by Jason Aaron. And I have to admit that the Ghost Rider by Jason Aaron omnibus annoys the hell out of me because it's $100 and it's only 536 pages. So it's about half the size of a normal omnibus. This is something you could have put out in a regular hardcover, like they do for the Marvel, for the X-Men crossovers they did during the House of X, War of X, X of X, X equals X. If X is 2, then what is Y? We do have a Wolverine omnibus. These are also terrible stories. This is the heart of the 90s. It's Wolverine 76 through 101. And when you take a look at the penciled by, you can see why. Because penciled by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 artists listed, and more. So for 25 issues, there are 23 artists listed, Joe. Oh, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 writers with the proverbial and more. This was just an awful time for the X-Men books. They made no sense. They were selling because they were selling. And I bet if you asked people who read it back then to tell you what the stories were, they'd kind of shrug. We have a Ultimate Marvel by Jonathan Hickman, which reprints his Ultimate Comics. Let's see, he did two miniseries, Thor and Hawkeye, and then a 12-issue series for the Ultimates. And again, it's $100 for 560 pages. We get a reprint of Ultimate Comics Spider-Man, Death of Spider-Man. This is when Peter Parker died in the Ultimate Universe. We then have another Predator Original Years Omnibus, which reprints 1,040 pages of Dark Horse goodness. I have all of those. Then we have a remaster work. They are still doing the remaster works. This is the Incredible Hulk, issues 1 through 6. And if you ever want to see a series where Marvel had no idea what the hell they were doing in their early days, the Hulk is the perfect one. He goes from brutish to stupid to angry to smart, gray to green, to having Bruce Banner's head on the Hulk's body, to having Kirby do issues, Ditko do issues, and Stan. It was really clear they had no idea what they wanted to do with the book. I always point to this one as when people say, "Oh, well, that Marvel had great ideas from the start." No, they didn't. Hulk was a mess. Hulk was a complete and utter mess. And even it's one of those where I could kind of point to Jack Kirby's memory not being as good as people say, because Jack Kirby said, "Well, I created it after I read a story about a woman lifting a car off her child, because I figured, when somebody gets really emotional and really angry and really upset, they can perform great feats of strength." That's not a part of this Hulk at all. If you read this Hulk comic, the first issue or two, he's the Frankenstein monster. Then he becomes one of the Marvel monsters from the Atlas era. Then when Steve Ditko takes over, I'm sorry, Steve Ditko. I like Steve Ditko a lot, but his Hulk was kind of a, what the flaming blue hell is this? Which is why it got canceled for Sergeant Fury. The books I am picking up. First off is on page 117, Deadpool Epic Collection, Drowning Man trade paperback. Joe, this has Deadpool number 11 in it.
I know.
With Spider-Man number 47, which is where the art and story for Deadpool number 11 comes from. This is the funniest comic in the history of comics.
Yes.
Deadpool goes back to an early issue of Spider-Man and is put into Peter Parker's body. So they basically reprint the comic with Daredevil drawn in for Peter Parker and Daredevil doing the dialogue and thought balloons and stuff. To this day, it's one of my favorite comics ever printed.
Yeah, I still got the original. That was one of those when I originally had it at the shop. I actually got a copy of, would you say, Amazing Spider-Man 47?
Yes.
And if you bought a copy of that Daredevil, I would put you in the drawing to win it. And the guy who won it happened to be one of our better customers, Jim Thole, who, unfortunately, fortunately for him, had been buying comics since the beginning of the Marvel age. So he was one of those guys who bought almost every Marvel comic, 2 of the X-Men, because I think he was buying one for a friend of his who didn't even read it, just wanted to keep his run of the Uncanny X-Men going. Was not interested in all of the multiverse or the Ultraverse or things like that. Just wanted to stick with anything Marvel. So he was like, there was a few guys like Jerome Wanker we talked about. He was all DC. Yeah, but he would do any DC. I don't remember if he did it when Wildstorm.
He did what? He did Wildstorm.
Yeah,
but reluctantly and was not happy about it and complained about it bitterly.
So we had one of each, which was kind of cool. You can keep going. I've got nothing else. I have 0 trades or omnibuses I'm buying this month.
It feels like a month where I'm telling people to avoid stuff. The Silver Surfer Epic Collection is the last 11 or so issues of Silver Surfer, and then Galactus the Devourer. Avoid this. The last issues of Silver Surfer were a mess, which is why it got canceled at issue 146, rather than them kind of making it to 150 at least. And Galactus the Devourer. What this was a mini series. It was supposed to be a 12-issue series. And in the first 6 issues, Galactus is dying. And the Silver Surfer, realizing how important he is as one of the primordial forces of the universe, is trying to figure out what's causing this. And in the 6th issue, he dies. Now, they were going to do another 6-issue miniseries. This was written by Louise Simonson and drawn by John Buscema, so that we could get some more John Buscema Silver Surfer. However, John Buscema passed away before he started work on the second 6-issue miniseries. So the story was just kind of hand-waved away in a Fantastic Four issue later. It's a mess. It's a complete and utter mess. However, on the next page, X-Men Epic Collection, The Brood Saga. This is Paul Smith drawing the X-Men, Joe. Mm-hmm. There was nothing better on this world than Paul Smith drawing the X-Men. And that's all I have to say about that. Doctor Strange Epic Collection, I Dormammu. This is the stuff that came after Ditko left. You can skip it. Boy, Dan Atkins loved to swipe art from other people. I could actually look at these stories and go, he got that from this issue of Doctor Strange. He got that from this issue of Doctor Strange. He got that from this issue of Doctor Strange. He got that from this issue of Doctor Strange. And then the last of the Epic collections is the Modern Era, which is stuff that pretty much is printed after 2000. This is volume 5 of the Venom Modern Era Epic collection. This is when Flash Thompson takes over as Venom. I liked it. It was not thought of well at the time. I'll be interested to see if it has aged any better. And then Joe's getting the no, you're not getting the new Secret Wars 2 trade paperback because you got the omnibus, baby.
I got one of the only omnibuses that's held its value because they probably will never, ever reprint it.
I never say never, Joe.
Well, I don't know. It wasn't that good. I mean, there were parts of it that were okay. You know, John Byrne's stuff, the New Mutant stuff, but yeah.
It's funny to me how this book and the new universe is what drove the final nail in Jim Shooter's coffin at Marvel.
I can see what Shooter was after when you line it all up and you read it, but if you know the stories like you said where he wielded the crossovers like a hammer, you know, you have to do that, you have to do this. Yeah, it takes some of the shine off it.
Well, not only that, he would rewrite. He was so micromanaging by this point at Marvel. That's why a lot of people left Marvel during the last years of Shooter's run. He was micromanaging. He would rewrite stuff. He would send art back to people like Gene Colan and John Buscema saying it wasn't good enough. I'm sorry. Anybody who sends art back to John Buscema and says it's not good enough does not know their ass from a hole in the ground. John Buscema's doodles are better than 90% of comic art. Joe, shall we go to DC?
Yeah, you know what? I've been having a great time just listening to you. So I'm just going to tell you the only 2 things I'm buying from DC. Well, you go to page 48, 49, all the facsimiles. Adventure Comics 260, All-Star Comics 3, the First Justice Society, Batman 5, Doom Patrol 99, first one of them, Wonder Woman 1. I really like facsimiles. I try to get myself in the mindset when I'm reading it. Okay, this is the first time I've read this, and what would I honestly think about it? The only other thing I'm buying, actually I already have it, but I'm going to recommend, if you have not picked up Absolute Justice League, the world's greatest superheroes by Alex Ross and Paul Dini, they're redoing it in an absolute format way back on page 54. And this is where they took the treasury-sized editions of Superman Peace on Earth, Batman War on Crime, Shazam Power of Hope, Wonder Woman, Spirit of Truth, JLA Secret Origins, and JLA Liberty and Justice. And they put it all together in one format, slightly smaller than the Treasuries, but infinitely easier to read and easier to keep in a better shape. That's it for me for DC. Cory, impress me. What do you got going for DC?
Oh, I can't impress you. First off, when I look at facsimile editions, I think they're starting to run out of books to reprint. Because, let's see, the Batman #5 is the debut of the remodeled Golden Age Batmobile.
And of course,
not even the debut of the Batmobile. No. It's the first time it was remodeled.
But did you see the Hot Wheel I got from San Diego Comic-Con of the original Batmobile?
Yeah.
This
isn't Joe. This isn't the original.
No, I know that. I'm just saying. This is what I did most on the facsimiles are looking at the ads. In the case of when, like, Detective, Batman was really a small part of that, Yeah. So I'm digging lots of, even I think in the All-Star 3, it's not a proper team up. It's just kind of everybody sitting around telling their own stories. Because I remember that reading it in the archives that DC used to do.
I'm a little upset that they're not doing a foil cover because I got the Batman #1 with the foil cover, and it's impressive.
Yeah, some of those foil covers are real. If you can get it in great shape, because I've seen them with little hairs on them or little tiny ding and things like that. Generally, though, they do ship pretty good. So if you do look at them at your friendly neighborhood comic store, if they offer them, take a close look. Make sure you don't buy yourself a lemon.
So we're having another big team crossover over at DC, and that is Titans Beast World.
I'm sorry, what?
Where the biggest threat to the DC universe, not just, the Titans, not just the US, not just the Earth, not just the solar system, not just the galaxy. No, the whole universe is the guy who can turn into animals.
Aminals.
By the way, I'm already sick to death of Amanda Waller being the big bad behind everything at DC.
Yeah. She's getting to the point where somebody is going to take her out.
It's getting to the point where it's like Dr. Doom at Marvel in the late 70s, early 80s, where it's, well, we need a villain.
Doom.
Yeah, use Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
But Amanda Waller has nothing to do with, shut up. Use Amanda Waller.
And I liked her better when she was the big black lady that looked like she could actually take out Batman. Now she's just a thin, crabby person.
Not only that, she was the head of a secret organization and had the Suicide Squad in her back pocket and didn't take any guff from anyone. Now she's the genius manipulator behind every horrible thing that's ever happened since Moses died.
Mopey. She was the one who created Mopey. Dragged him from another universe.
We do have another pair of miniseries based on the DC movies. We have another Batman '89 miniseries, which is, that looks like a one-shot. Yeah, it looks like a one-shot, but it is written by Sam Hamm, who wrote the Batman movie. And then we have Superman the Metal Curtain, which is not written by the person who wrote the Superman movie from 1978. I do believe that Batman is finally done with the big crossover with Catwoman. I hope, because boy, that thing goes on forever. We have a new Outsiders series, which is a lot like the Thunderbolt series in that Batman protects Gotham City from evil. Batman Incorporated protects the rest of the known world. But what of the unknown world? What of the ancient evils and hidden tombs and forgotten treasures? Batwoman is pulling together a team, and they don't say who the team is. Kind of like on the Thunderbolts, where it's Bucky Barnes pulls together a team. They show a team on the cover, but they don't mention who's in it in the solicitation at all. So it's probably going to be a rotating cast. And I hate to tell comic companies, you've tried rotating casts for 40 years and people don't like it because it's a rotating cast. It's like anthology books. Cool idea. Modern audiences do not like it at all. I think there was only one other thing that I was excited about, and it was flipping through pages here. It's another one of those special big issues. There was The Mite Before Christmas. It's another 80-pager. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a bat mite. From all your DC favorites, as they take on 8 classic holiday tales, from Constantine and Lex Luthor's Dickensian tale to Batwoman puzzling Hanukkah hijinks. It's an anthology book. I like anthology books. Most people don't. I buy these. I think they're great because it's very much I just want to sit and read a comic. I don't want to have to grab an omnibus or stuff like that. I like a one-shot every once in a while. I also want to point something out that I did not realize, Joe.
What was that?
You know how over at Dynamite they have the Fire and Ice comic based on the movie by Frazetta?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that DC a month before that put out a Fire and Ice Welcome to Smallville, which is Fire and Ice, the 2 characters from the Global Guardians that were then used in Justice League International. They gave them a miniseries to kind of use the name and blunt the impact of Fire and Ice so that there would be confusion, blah, blah, blah. It's one of the reasons Bill Willingham has fired DC Comics. When it comes to their trade paperbacks and stuff, they list 8. That's it. They only have 8 collected editions coming out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 of them are Batman. And I'm not getting any of them because none of them. I've already got the Paul Dini one, and the rest are just reprinting the regular Batman comic. So there you go. It's time for Image, which Joe doesn't care about.
Actually, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 things in Image.
What?
Yeah, and again, Image, I may be missing it because, I've got to use your Jackass system online, whatever. So there's no way to tell on a big-ass alphabetical list what's new and what isn't. So I probably missed something that I would have otherwise bought. But I'll start out because the first one is Blood Commandment, 4-issue series. Living an isolated life in a shadowed valley surrounded by mountains and a thick forest, a father and his son are terrorized by a dangerous supernatural presence. Only the father's dark secret can save them or damn their souls for all eternity. And it goes on and on and on. But it's a 4-issue miniseries. Let's see. Sezmon Karansky, writer, artist, cover. So,
and if you go and download the Image catalog, you get 5 pages of really beautiful art. Really beautiful art. I'm not buying it, but I do want to point out, you know how Image now has the Hasbro license?
Mm-hmm.
G.I. Joe number 301 by Larry Hama.
Yep. The guy who did the whole shebang. An artist. Who they got?
Chris Mooneyham.
Okay, I must be looking at a one shot or something. Because they list Herb Trimp and Bob McLeod as arts.
That is the reprint.
See, look at that. You already screwed me up, Image. Up yours.
G.I. Joe, Real American Hero #1, the Larry Hama cut, which restores Larry Hama's original unedited dialogue, which is never before seen print.
Cool. Well, good thing you're covering it because Lord knows no one else will. Let's see. That was another one I was looking for. The other one I'm looking at is called Crave, 6-issue series by Maria Lovett. A mysterious app that promises to make your desires come true spreads among the students of an elite university who use it as a hookup app. David, a top student, engages in a game of seduction with the unattainable Alexandra, but as requests to the app escalate and wreak havoc on campus, David and his friends' only chance to stop this spiral is to find out what really lies behind Crave.
There is a
really sexy covers too. Ooh.
There is a series coming that I will be buying as a trade paperback because that's how I roll. But for those of you who buy it as a comic, Holy Roller #1.
I thought that you were going for the roll pun. Read the premise of this. This thing is brilliant.
Everyone was sitting around wondering when comedian Andy Samberg would join writer Rick Remender and Fall Out Boy's Joe Troman to write a comic about a vigilante hero who smashes people's faces with bowling balls. And everyone's dreams have come true. To care for his ailing father, Pro Bowler Levi Cohen is forced to quit his dream job and return to his hometown, which he soon discovers has been overrun by neo-Nazis. With only his bowling ball collection to defend himself, Levi becomes the Holy Roller, a trick bowling ball wielding superhero battling to liberate the home and bowl a perfect game against crime. It's Kingpin meets Inglourious Basterds beats Batman, that old chestnut. Now, we've all heard this story of Kingpin meeting Inglourious Basterds, meeting Batman. With equal parts action and humor in this special introductory issue with 42 pages of story. 2 issues for the price of 1. I'm sorry. We also get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. This looks so much fun. It looks like big, goofy, dumb fun. And Andy Samberg was involved in one of my favorite TV series of the last decade, and that is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I am all over this. Joe, did you have anything else from Image? Any collected editions?
The one collected edition I point out is Manifest Destiny Book 1. It's the first printing. They're limiting it to 5,000 copies. It's, let's see, in 1804, Captain Meriwether Lewis and Captain William Clark set out on an expedition to explore the uncharted American frontier. This is the untold story of what they discovered lurking in the wilds. This deluxe hardcover collects the first 24 issues along with covers and a sketchbook for the definitive presentation of the entire series. So I always like the, if I can get it all in one, I can sit. That's how I read Paper Girls and all the other fun stuff.
You know what I find fascinating is limited to 5,000 copies, limited to 4,000 copies. I'm looking, I was doing some research in the Dead Universes. Remember Triumph? Limited to 175,000 copies.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it's a different world now. It's a very different world now. I don't think I was getting any of the collected editions. I'm going to double check here. They are putting Invincible back in new printings, new formats. But nope, there wasn't anything else that I was jumping at. And that is it.
All right.
For Image.
Now pick up that big old previews catalog. And I suppose we'll just, take them in order?
Sure.
So first off is Boom. I go right to page 42. I'm not buying it because I'll wait for the trade, but I do want to point out there's a new Berserker, Fallen Empire. Created by Keanu Reeves, written by Hudson Tomlin, illustrated by Rebecca Isaacs. So if you bought it the first time around, here's the second time around. And I think, I can't tell, this may be a one-shot because it's like $10 and you can get a foil for 12 or the LSDS foil for 13. So choose your variants wisely. And there's other variants as well, foil variants, incentive variants, unlockable variants, virgin variants.
Sadly, no variants with a bullet hole in the cover.
Nope.
We've done that already.
Anything else from Boom?
I had nothing from Boom.
Okay, other things I'll point out. Page 46, Animal Pound Ash Can. From the publisher of Slaughterhouse-5, the graphic novel, comes a bold reimaging of George Orwell's timeless masterpiece by two award-winning creators working together for the first time, Tom King and Peter Gross. So this is an exclusive ash can. Gives you a chance to check it out, and it's only $2.99. So that might be, if it picks up, usually those ash cans can go crazy. The final thing on page 48, The Space Between #1. This is a multi-generational spanning interstellar sci-fi tale for fans of We Only Like Them Dead. Aboard the interstellar ark known as Dodona, the populations of workers live in strictly separated social castes during the journey that will take multiple generations to complete. But everything changes when a pilot from the upper tier named Revla falls to the lower levels and meets Les, and they must risk everything for not just themselves, but all aboard their ship. It's a limited series. Each one features a new pair of protagonists and a new generation of humanity in this sci-fi epic of love, survival, and liberation. So it caught my attention. I would probably wait for the trade, because Boom does do trades. And that's it for Boom. Next up, yeah. A couple things I just point out that I'm not going to buy, but if you're into Savage Red Sonja, very different. Page 80 has a new series starting out, Savage Red Sonja #1, with tons of variant covers and limited covers from Frank Cho and Arthur Adams. A couple pages of artwork, and of course on page 85, an interview from the writer, so you decide whether or not that's something you want. And then back on page 110, you have a ton of stuff from Army of Darkness, because it's their 30th anniversary, you know. So you could get yourself the anniversary board game, and then across from it is the board game miniature expansion sets, so you can get a little Ash of your own.
You've used that joke a lot.
Yeah, well, it was actually on the catalog, so I was just going to use
it. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They're stealing from you, Joe. They're stealing
I know.
from you.
Hey, when I give them good material. Anything for Dynamite for you?
No.
All right, into the deluxe publishers. I think I don't start until page 164. You got anything? I'm in a blaze. You got anything before that?
No, I really.
Nothing for Titan?
I don't have anything till we get to Dark Horse.
All right. Well, I will just cover quickly Ablaze, page 164, The Agent. What if witchcraft really existed? If our beliefs, superstitions, and legends were material? That is what Rim, a young narcotics lieutenant, must answer when she finds herself confronted with the impossible. While staking out a subway deal, a suspect magically kills his informant and drives the entire station into madness with just a handful of weed. She miraculously escapes unscathed. She's unaware, but she's a witch, and that fact arouses the interest of a very particular unit of the French Secret Service, a group of special agents who, like the criminals they hunt, have mastered the art of sorcery. A couple different variant covers, some really small art, and of course a little, what they call a square code, so you can preview the issue.
A QR code.
QR, yeah. So, which is a brilliant idea. Good way to do it. Let's see, what's next? I got page 191. Cory, did you like the movie Basic Instinct?
No.
Okay, then you probably want to pass. Those of you that did, check out Massive Publishing Basic Instinct #1, 4-issue series. Yep.
No one went to see the sequel to the damn thing, because the only reason anyone saw Basic Instinct was that Sharon Stone flashed her hoo-ha.
Well, let's put it this way. Sumerian's been known to do
flashing hoo-has?
They occasionally have covers that are covered up. Let's see. An anonymous artist who draws their inspiration from famous murderers has opened their newest exhibit surrounding the now infamous Ice Pick murder, centered around Catherine Tremell. However, when a security guard of the exhibit is murdered on its opening night, the art director is responsible for the opening is thrust into an investigation that forces him to question his own involvement. So a bunch of variant covers.
I bet if you questioned 100 people, you could not find 5 that remembers the plot of Basic Instinct.
Nope. I don't think I've ever watched it. Didn't care to. IDW is reprinting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. So if you didn't pick it up from Frank Miller Presents, here's your chance this month to get it all. You can pick up all 5 as comics or pick it up as a hardcover from IDW. So I thought that was interesting.
Last Ronin from IDW is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story, not the Frank Miller one.
Oh, and that's another reason to pick it up. Because
Ronin
says
is the Frank Miller.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Last Ronin.
Joe's a bit confused.
You did skip Dark Horse.
I did. I thought I'm looking for Dark Horse, but I didn't see it.
Dark Horse starts on page 202.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's easy for me. Quick Stops. Nope. 2. The Kevin Smith. It's on page 204, by the way. So it's Kevin Smith and his Secret Stash Press bring you the seedy, sexy, sensational origin of the eschewed sacred cow, Mooby the Golden Calf. Learn the utter truth about American Icon, where a young podcaster tries to milk Mooby's creator, Nancy Goldruff, for the bovine's beginning, only to meet, M-E-A-T, a cow tail so shocking it turns her brain to hamburger. Jeez, you'd think I'd be writing these things. What do you got for us, Cory?
I have a bunch on page 206. First off,
right.
BRPD Omnibus Volume 9, which continues the reprinting of the Mike Mignola series. Right below that is Creepy Archives Volume 5 in trade paperback. These reprint the Creepy magazine. These are still from the 60s, so they're still really good. I will warn you when the Creepy reprints start to take a step down in quality. It's after Archie Goodwin leaves. So you do get art by Steve Ditko, Reed Crandall, Angelo Torres, and Alex Toth. We also have EC Archives Weird Science Volume 3. EC was the top of the line. Their artists lineup was a murderer's row. The science fiction books were the ones that Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein, who pretty much ran EC, were the most proud of. You've got Wally Wood, Jack Kamen, Joe Orlando, 2 Ray Bradbury stories. Beautiful, beautiful work in this book. And then right underneath that is a new volume of Empowered, which is a comedy superhero series by Adam Warren. If you've not read Empowered, they do have omnibuses for 1 and 2 that reprint, I think, the first 6 paperbacks. These are printed in, basically they're printed in paperback form. They don't do regular comics. They just do paperbacks. Costume crime fighter Empowered is trapped in a surreal nightmare scenario where her universe begins spontaneously rebooting again and again, with each variation more twisted and bizarre than the last. Can our befuddled superheroine somehow undo the inexplicable, never-ending reboot while simultaneously steering her love life in a boldly polyamorous new direction? This is Adam Warren. Adam Warren is, I love his art. He was one of the first artists in American comics that were incredibly influenced by manga. He's got a wonderful sense of humor about his stuff. I just love Adam Warren's work. Always have. Empowered is something he's been working on for a long time, and it's really entertaining. It's really a lot of fun. And for me, that was it for Dark Horse.
The next thing I recommend is on page 228 under Andrew McNeil. Office Gods graphic novel. Gods, Demigods, and True Romance? Office God, based on the hit webcomic, is an addictive rom-com set in the corporate HQ of the Olympians themselves. Iris, a young human woman, is swept into the world of the divine bureaucracy when she's recruited to work in the office of the gods in the Department of Hermes. The gods and goddesses may be beautiful beyond human comprehension, but she quickly learns they're every bit as petty and quarrelsome as they were thousands of years ago. Can she survive Eros' antics, Aphrodite's temper, and getting caught in a love triangle between the demigods of Athena and Hades? It's a graphic novel, so it's not just a cheap old comic book, but it caught my eye. Cory?
On page 233, that is the Archie Digest, where they are celebrating 50 years of Archie Digest. They have something called the Colossal Digest Pack, and they say that it's 750 pages. What it is, Archie keeps a lot of their stuff to sell mail order. And after a while, they go, this isn't going to ever sell. So they repackage their digests. They take 4 digests, kind of package them together in one big digest and sell them that way, which is what a lot of comic publishers used to do in the 50s and 60s. EC was very famous for their annuals, were just grabbing 4 comics they had in the office that had not sold. You know, they had back issues for back issue sales back then. They would take 4, cram it together, put a new cover on it, send it out as an annual. That's what they do for these. There's also a Josie and the Pussycats one-shot on the other page, written by Tom DeFalco and drawn by Holly G., who's also known as Holly Golightly, who, Joe, do you know who Holly Golightly's husband is?
I do not.
Jim Ballant, who does tarot of Sword of the Black Rose.
Ooh.
So you get basically you get the yin and the yang. His wife does kid comics and he does stuff that's not for kids.
If you go back one more page, you'll see Darkling. Embrace the darkness, discover the truth. Darla Lang looks like a normal college student, save for the particular voluminous black cloud she wears everywhere. Her peers and professors chalk it up to her eccentric, introverted, slightly creepy persona. But Darla is a young woman with a secret and a mission. Her cloak is actually a mystical artifact she can use as a melee weapon, trapping her enemies inside and teleporting them away. Why I found this interesting, David Mack's doing a variant cover. I've been digging David Mack stuff. So, Archie, well done. And of course, as Cory knows, I can't believe you skipped over the book on page 229 from applause. A disturbance in the force, how and why the Star Wars Holiday Special happened. How could you miss B. Arthur as the owner of a cantina? Long scenes entirely of Wookiees bleating at each other without subtitles. Harvey Korman in drag as a 4-armed Space Julia child. 6 minutes of Jefferson Starship performing for Art Carney in a bored Imperial Guard. Mark Hamill, fresh from his near-fatal motorcycle accident, slathered in pancake makeup. Even by the standards of the 1970s, the 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special is a peerlessly cringeworthy pulp culture artifact. Why Disney just doesn't own it and put it out once and for all. But Here's It by Steve Kozak is a reference book to pick up that covers pretty much everything and how this thing ever saw the light of day. It let's just say my good buddy Eric, I made him watch this once. He has vowed revenge.
And the thing is, if you were a kid in the 70s, they had crap like this on all the time.
I missed it because I don't know where I was. And of course it never aired again. Again, I don't want to get too inside it because we'll veer off. CBS really wanted this to be their version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Frosty the Snow-Bitten Snowman, whatever, to air year after year after year, and they did not get it. And I know that whatever George Lucas sent to CBS was totally redone by CBS. And again, this was early on, which is why nobody makes George Lucas now do anything George Lucas doesn't want to do.
Well, the other thing is, now George Lucas has told so many different stories about this, but the people who worked on it said that we just went off George's notes. We told him it was going to be a variety show.
Which he denied.
Which I find incredibly hard to believe because the people behind it, all they did were variety shows in the 70s. That was what their studio did. It's like if you said, oh, when I went to McDonald's, I had no idea they were going to give me a burger.
Well,
these specials
when we read
big.
The book, we will find out, well, what Steve uncovered is the truth.
These specials were on all the time. There were also endless series like this. Donnie and Marie did a show that was almost exactly like
We're not
this.
denying it's a variety show, which is a unique phenomenon of the 70s. What is weird is that, according to what CBS said, they wanted a special that was timeless.
Yeah.
This was not it. Although we have seen what's significant about it, of course, is the first appearance of Boba Fett, although it's not canon. Although they did make a Boba Fett action figure of it.
Yeah.
In fact, they may have made action figures. They should just make action figures of everything there. The other action figure I would love to see, Weird Al Yankovic from his long time ago video.
But Lucas did promo work for it ahead of time, doing interviews about it. And then when it came out, the reaction was so negative. If you look at the timeline, after it came out is when Lucas said, oh, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't even know what they were doing. I couldn't believe they have B. Arthur singing. What? Carrie Fisher says that George Lucas was there on set. Then again, Carrie Fisher admits she was really messed up on coke the whole time.
Yeah. I'm looking I'll read this. Like I said, I'll borrow you the book when I read it if you're not going to buy it.
It's a fascinating thing. When you watch it, if you put yourself in that mindset, it looks like an average, for everybody, it's the worst thing ever. No, it kind of looks like an average episode of Donnie and Marie.
No, it doesn't. Because when you go a full 40 minutes with Wookiees grunting and no subtitles, that never happened on Donnie and Marie. So, and trust me, I love watching Donnie and Marie.
It's no worse than the Starland Vocal Band show.
Nah. I'm sorry. Wookiees grunting.
It's no worse than the Mary Tyler Moore variety show.
I never saw it. Don't worry about it.
It's no worse than Saturday Night Live with Howard Cosell.
I haven't watched it yet, although I might have to watch that. All right. I know Cory loves himself some Aspen variant covers. I'm not going to go through them, but on page 236, 237, Aspen hasn't been doing anything new lately, so maybe they're also feeling the heat. They're putting out a lot of variant covers this month. So
well, I don't
want Turner and stuff.
I don't want to be mean, but haven't they run out of Michael Turner art yet?
Well, they were using his properties in their own unique stories, so maybe they're just they're not selling. So let's whatever. There's some cool stuff there. So again, if you're want to pick some neat stuff up, take a look. You be the judge. And of course, right after that,
they have his sketches that he did. A lot of these are almost convention sketches that they're just repurposing.
Yeah. And then after that, of course, we got more stuff from Avatar.
Joe, have you gone to page 242?
I'm on my way there. Go for it.
Page 242 is a comic called Red Light. Get ready for a red-hot, futuristic, erotic thriller that sits at the intersection of sex and tech by exciting new writer Sarah Cho and artist Priscilla Petrantes. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Call us, Priscilla. We'll have you on the show. You can yell at us and tell us all about your project.
With a cover by Frank Cho. Joe, why would Frank Cho do a cover for this comic?
I'm sorry. I ordered the Frank Cho variants. It was that or the red light one, which looked pretty cool.
Why would he do a cover for this comic?
Why not? Joe knows boobs.
Because his wife is writing it.
Oh, I'm shocked. Nepotism in comics?
Nepotism in comics?
I thought she was a new playwright.
Well, she's never written a comic before. So
Frank, all I remember is the story where, well, after losing big at the poker game, suppose I have to do some sketches. Otherwise, my wife's gonna kill me.
Yeah,
he's still paying the price. Yeah, definitely. What cover did you go for? I went for the Frank cover.
I have to go with the Frank Cho cover, but I think I went with the one that's just the sketch.
I might have gone both. And like I said, that cover C's kind of cool because it looks like an actual billboard for playwright, you know. And what's nice is if you go on to the next page, you get some pictures of the art and a little bit more of a write-up on there on page 244. So
it is a while for me to get to my next book. So
okay. What page will you be on?
Page 302.
All right. Well, let's see. Yeah, I got a couple here. On page 248, From the Static, from Band of Bards, a horror anthology of 17 individual stories exploring the theme of horror from many different angles. Fast-paced and gory, slow psychological haunts, lighthearted and funny, climate collapse and more. This will appeal to fans of horror from all eras and subgenres. A who's who of artists. I'm not going to read the entire collection. 140 pages for $24.99. I'm not a horror fan, but that one did catch my eye. On page 276, dun dun dun, as I take a jump forward and try not to get paper cut. 276, I've got Lifeboat, one shot from Critical Entertainment, LLC. In the dark era of space-time moments before particle decay unwinds the atomic fabric of the universe as we know it, May, Jacob, and Dove carry the faint, flickering torch of life through an endless void. This short story is about lost fate and the hope that we must hold dearly to on our journeys forward to the ultimate unknown. Underneath it, another one shot from the same group, The Cowboy with Many Hats. The sheriff of an old western town is framed for murder by the state marshal. He must realize that all things pass before he loses hope to move on. Not a lot of pages for the bucks, but they are one shots. Page 294. I'm really jumping through here. Cory, would you buy a graphic novel called Dirty Panties? Would you buy Dirty Panties online?
I would never admit to such a thing.
Well, this is a book from Editions Tanibus from Maybelline Skarvolzoff. Roseanne is a young Parisian whose bohemian lifestyle seems stuck in an endless loop of idle afternoons and wine-soaked nights with her roommate. Strapped for cash and novelty, she starts selling her used underwear online. This chronicles her first steps in the marketplace, from the creation of her online persona to the real-life rendezvous with shady customers. This business soon impacts Roxanne's daily life and the people around her. The world she's just stepped into might be much more bizarre than what she expected. Well, unless you're looking to buy, some, this would probably be the closest you can get. So it's a graphic novel. It's just one of those things that, okay, it sounds different. Cory, what you got next?
A book I have been waiting for ever since it's been announced. Joe, go to page 300.
Page 300.
The Atlas Artist Edition, Volume 1, Joe Maneely from Fantagraphics. Mm-hmm. The first book in Fantagraphics' Atlas Artist Edition collects the best work of Joe Maneely, Marvel's top artist in the 1950s. This is a full-color, oversized collector's volume, scanned from the original printings and restored with a wealth of detail never seen before. Manili could draw horror, science fiction, war, crime, mad-style humor, westerns, and funny animals with equal dexterity. Additionally, series editor Dr. Michael J. Vassallo provides expert commentary in a special essay. This is a fitting tribute to an artist who has never been given the attention his short career deserves until now. I discovered Joe Manili in the 90s when I got on discussion lists with people who knew about Timely and Atlas. And Doc V, as we call Dr. Michael J. Vassallo, could not stop singing the praises of Joe Manili. Marvel reprinted some of his stuff when Mort Todd was an editor there. And they did 2 miniseries that reprinted Marvel Monster stuff. And the idea was if it sold well enough, they would continue. It did not sell well enough. His art blew me away. I then had to hunt down the Black Knight, which was a series that he did. Absolutely beautiful stuff. This is a book I have been looking forward to for years because Doc V announced it a couple of years ago. I'm so excited to get this book. Underneath it, Bill Ward, the Fantagraphic Studio Edition. Bill Ward, most people know him from Cracked, where he drew who was the interviewer? Nancy, what's her name?
I don't remember her name.
But you remember the art.
What she looked like. Oh, yes.
He was one of the artists in the 40s and 50s that was very well renowned for what they called good girl art. And what it was is, man, he draws girls good. This is a collection of the strips that he did for Humorama, which was, there was a, before and after Mad, there were magazines, mostly started in the 40s, that sold to soldiers overseas, that were panel cartoons and jokes. They were just humor magazines. It was just, jokes, one panel cartoons. They lasted into the 60s. Bill Ward did a ton of them. This is not for the general public, because it's a $175 hardcover. I am not picking this up because I am not that big a fan, but I do want to point it out. Bill Ward did very little in comics, but he did a lot of one-panel gags. He did a lot of work for Cracked. He is one of those artists that is very well known among collectors. And then if you turn the page...
Turn the page.
Page 302, EC Fan Addict number 5. This profusely illustrated issue is absolutely full of EC lore and rare artwork by EC artists. This is a EC Fan magazine. Frank Frazetta's original hand-colored Weird Science 29 cover. An unpublished interview with Rudy Nappy, a visit to Gaines's EC Art Vault, a feature on EC's lettering team, a listing of all the various versions of EC's Picture Tales from the Bible. This is for hardcore EC fans. So, of course, I'm going to get it. I mean,
right up Cory's wheel.
Duh. Joe, what's next?
For me, let's see. I am on page 304. To backtrack a bit, this is from First Second Books, Ruined. For fans of Bridgerton comes a Regency-era graphic novel about the unexpected passions that blooms when 2 desperate strangers are rushed into an arranged marriage. The whole town is whispering about how Catherine Benson lost her virtue, though she can never agree on the details, or they can't agree on the details. Was it in a public garden or a moving carriage? Only a truly desperate man would want her now, and that's exactly what Andrew Davenor is. His family estate's in disrepair, but Catherine's sizable dowry could set it to rights. After the 2 wed, Catherine finds herself inexplicably drawn to Andrew, but could falling in love with her husband tear her marriage apart? Boy, that sounds like a bad movie, doesn't it? But it's a graphic novel.
Or an episode of Bridgerton.
Yes, so check it out. Cory?
The next thing I have is on page 343. It's another thing I can't afford, but if someone were to buy it for me, I would be their friend. The Adventures of Tintin, the complete collection, on page 343. Tintin, Hergé's classic comic book creation, is one of the most iconic characters in children's books. To celebrate the 90th anniversary, the original 23 adventures have been reprinted together for the very first time. There are over 1,600 pages of delight in these 8 volumes. $200 for the box set. If they ever print these in sequential order in affordable volumes, because I've picked up them here and there, they're beautiful. Hergé stuff is so good. It's like Asterisk. It's one of those things that the rest of the world, when you say comics, they think Tintin, Asterisk, the Barks, Ducks, things like that. And here in the U.S., we don't know anything about it because, I don't know, we're culturally stupid. Joe?
A quick look at page 308. Golden books. I like these golden books. They got the Beatles little golden book, a Bee Gees little golden book, the Oprah Winfrey little golden book. I know I got my mother a Carol Burnett little golden book, and she adored it. So if you got friends who are Beatles, Bee Gees, or Oprah Winfrey fans, this would be the thing to pick up. I imagine these will probably be on sale all over. One of the comic shops I visited when I was in Chicago had an actual display of all these books, and I thought it was kind of neat. It'd be something I'd pick up. If you're not interested in golden books, on page 317 from Humanoids, let's see, Majnun and Layla, Songs from Beyond the Grave. Quays and Layla were so madly in love that the young man could not contain his passion for his beloved, giving him the nickname of Majnun. Majnun? I'm sorry, but it means the madman. But in spite of these lovers' passions, their story has a tragic end. What's nice is you can check out the art. It's kind of a poetry poem. They give a very, very generous helping of the artwork. I mean, geez, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 pages of artwork. So you can check to see if this graphic novel is in your wheel well, something you'd be interested in. It is all ages. And it's a little pricey, $29.99, but I do appreciate Humanoids that you did. I do appreciate you, Humanoids, that you actually did publish this. So you're not, like Cory says, ordering it blind. You can decide whether or not this is yours or not. The other thing that Humanoids has is Mark Twain, the man that corrupted Hadleyburg. It's adapted from Mark Twain's short story of the same name, originally published in 1899. See, this is done by Wander Atunes. The man that corrupted Hadleyburg tells the story of the most honest town in America as it is tempted by a mysterious stranger asking the questions, is something incorruptible if it has not been tested? Again, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of art. You can decide if it's what you'd like. I think the art looks good. I actually love Mark Twain's stuff. So this is one that I'll be picking up. Cory?
If you go to page 366, the Chris Samney book, Jana and the Unpossible Monsters, is available in a collected edition. Nice hardcover for $50. This is a beautiful story, by the way. So much fun. Chris Samney, this is the first thing he has written and drawn. I love his art. Absolutely love his art. And him doing this non-superhero stuff shows that, damn, the guy's got chops. Guy's got chops, man. Love this book.
Chop, chop.
Joe?
Page 356 under NBM. Red Harvest, the graphic novel of the terror famine in the Soviet Ukraine. This is a historical type book. Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin waged a brutal war against Soviet peasantry, leading to the Holodomor, the terror famine that killed at least 4 million Ukrainians during the fall and winter of 1932 to 33. Based on the tragic events that took place in Soviet Ukraine and other parts of the Soviet Union, where Stalin and the ruling Communist Party began their program of forced large-scale collectivization of individuals, farms, and farmers, including the seizure of livestock, farm implements, crops, seed stock, and other property. Based on true stories as related to the Ukrainian-Canadian author, I'm not going to pronounce that, but it's on page 356, so you can check it out. The author was a Ukrainian immigrant to Canada who was the only member of his family to have survived the famine. So again, Red Harvest, graphic novel, Red Terror, famine in the Soviet Union, Ukraine. Cory?
If you go to page 368 at the bottom, Panini UK Limited, Doctor Who, the Fourth Doctor Anthology. This reprints a lot of the stories from the Doctor Who magazine when Tom Baker was the Doctor. Many of these were reprinted by Marvel in their Doctor Who Marvel premiere issues and then the Doctor Who series. This is the first time they've been available as a collected edition. This, oddly enough, was my introduction to Doctor Who because in Peoria they didn't have enough money to afford the Doctor Who reruns on our local PBS station. Joe?
I'm just pointing out in Oni, Rick and Morty Meeseeks PI 4-issue miniseries starting up. So if you're a Rick and Morty fan, you want to get all over that. On page 370, you will find Pimp Killer. It's a graphic novel from, excuse me while I backtrack here, Phoenix Studio.
Whip this out.
Yep. Hey, Cory, you got pimp problems? Then L.A. Jones is your woman. She's made a nice little business for herself over the last few years, hunting down pimps. Following the murder of a young woman in Reno, she turns her attention to Luciano Lucky Strikes, a low-life pimp hiding out in Hollywood. Lucky is notorious for torturing women who try to flee him, and L.A. is more than willing to dish out her own brand of justice, making this a match made in vengeance. Not soon to be a Netflix series to you. Oh, if you like Neil Gaiman's illustrated poems, on page 372, Neil Gaiman, What You Need to Be Warm hardcover. So Neil, illustrated by various people.
The last book that I have on page 394, Warrant Publishing, Shutter number 14. This is the black and white magazine that that has new horror stories in the style of the old Warren magazines like Creepy and Eerie. It's not as good as Creepy and Eerie, but it's as good as we're going to get. Joe?
And my last couple items are on cross pages 382, 383. From Silver Sprocket, Everything Sucks, Friends Forever, One Shot. It's the last call, and Noah miraculously has an after-hour date lined up with a cutie. But first, he's got to make a pit stop in the bathroom. And weirdly, so do his friends. When disaster strikes and the door gets stuck, can our heroes escape with their lives? Blood, beer, sewage-soaked chaos ensues. And it also includes cardstock foil cover and a sticker sheet. A sticker sheet! Across from that is Pee-Pee Poo-Poo number 80,085 One Shot.
We are still awaiting your review of the first issue of Pee-Pee Poo-Poo, by the way.
I haven't got it yet, but believe me, I'm going to order. Even if I don't, I just like saying it. Pee-Pee Poo-Poo. The final thing's over from Squarefish on page 383. Speak graphic novel. Speak up for yourself. We want to know what you have to say. From the very first moment of her freshman year at Meriwether High, Melinda knows this is a big fat lie, part of the nonsense of high school. She's friendless, an outcast, because she busted an end-of-summer party by calling the cops, so now nobody will talk to her, let alone listen to her. Through her work on an art project, she's finally able to face what really happened that night. She was raped by an upperclassman, a guy who still attends Meriwether and is still a threat to her. It ended a little more serious than I meant to, but it's a compelling graphic novel. So we'll do what we always do at this time. Flip over your graphic novels. Previews. And it's now time for a portion of the show we were forced to do. This is what we call For Brian. Brian, of course, was one of our listeners who bitterly complained that we never cover the toy section because Cory and I just basically aren't really toy guys. So now we do. And of course, as we all know from the corresponding years that are going on, Brian is a pop aficionado. So I like the lead
and he
off.
hates horror.
I lead off with page 36, which has the Daria vinyl figures based on the Daria, I think it was an MTV series, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a spin-off, believe it or not, of Beavis and Butthead.
I know.
In a completely different art style.
So naturally, you just want the Daria figure. I mean, you could have them all if you want, Brian, but I know you just want that. Over on page 37, you've got more Fantasia. They basically are making them like video cassette tapes. And the cool one is the Pop Rewind Disney of Fantasia Sorcerer Mickey vinyl figure. So you can leave it in the case or open it up and put it on with the rest of your figures there. And of course, if that's not enough, I know Brian's going to flip right away to page 56 because there you will have the Pop Werewolf by Night Man-Thing 6-inch deluxe vinyl figure.
You stole mine.
I'm sorry, Cory.
That's the only thing I had that I had. I am buying this. By the way, in my next box day, I do get the Man-Thing lunchbox. And if I were working at an office, I would bring that to work every goddamn day.
Yeah. I guess the last pop that I know Brian's going to want is on page 72, the Family Matters Steve Urkel vinyl pop figure. And that may actually be in the stores now because they've actually previously solicited a lot of these things to your retailers to pick up. Now, of course, I also like to recommend non-pop figures. I know Brian's not hip on these things, but what I highly recommend, and you can decide whether or not you want to bring this to work or not. On page 74 is the Transformers Grimlock Red Sword letter opener. It's the sword that the Transformer Grimlock would be carrying about. And being it's a letter opener, it's $30. Kind of expensive for a letter opener, but nevertheless, you would look pretty cool walking around with it. And across from it, over on page 75, a little late to the party, is a AEW Gallery CM Punk PVC statuette.
I am tempted to get that just for the pure irony of it.
I know. It's got him sitting down in his pipe bomb fashion. The John Moxley one is pretty cool, but
needs more blood.
It does.
Because it's John Moxley, so there has to be a lot of blood.
And that's it for me.
You know who it's not all done for?
Is it IDW because they're pushing their exclusive comics on Facebook?
No, these guys, our sponsors. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files that backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
It was so obvious.
And now, because it is a previews episode, we only do one freaking and one geeking, and no retro review. So you got a retro review last week. You'll get one next week.
Yeah, we promise.
Joe, what are you freaking on?
I'm freaking because we've had another death. Joe Matt, creator of Peep Show, died at age 60 at his drawing board. Joe Matt was a comic creator and cartoonist. His series Peep Show was published as a comic book by Drawn and Quarterly from 1991. He won multiple awards, including the Eisner Award. It's an incredibly raw and self-critical look at the author's views of life, women, pornography, and being part of a cartoonist community. It was one of a number of successful, what I call now, slice of life comics at the time. This included works from Robert Crumb, Peter Bagge, Seth, Roberta Gregory, Ed Brubaker, Dan Close, Chester Brown, a number of whom would appear in Peep Show. Peep Show is criticized for being heavy sexist, but no criticism of the book would make it. It wasn't anything that Joe wouldn't say about himself. He reportedly passed away of a heart attack and was at his drawing board when it happened. So I was kind of bummed to hear that. Matt was born in Philadelphia, illegally moving to Canada. Shame on you. I found his stuff very raw, very honest. It was like I couldn't look away from reading it when it came out. I think he did 15 issues and a number of hardcovers.
Yeah.
And when I had Hot Comics, I don't think he was publishing when I had Crazy Comics, but I always made sure to try to keep his stuff in stock. Onesie, twosie issues. Now some of those later issues, just like most of the independents, are kind of pricey because at the time nobody was buying them. So a little bummed on that. Cory, what's got you freaking this week?
The whole Bill Willingham Fables thing at DC. Bill Willingham, who has worked in comics since the early 80s, came back to do 12 more issues of Fables at DC. The book has gotten later and later and later, mostly because the artist, Mark Buckingham, is probably getting a lot more money over at Marvel completing Miracle Man. So Fables is getting later and later. Bill Willingham is upset about what is happening both with the late books and DC's business practices. So he said that he is firing DC and announced he is releasing Fables into public domain. Well, he can't do that because he doesn't own the copyright or trademark on Fables. When he signed his deal with DC, DC holds the trademark and copyright. Now, at a future point, it can be released to him. That was part of the Vertigo contract. Such as when you see some of Vertigo books like 2020 Visions or Crusaders or other books that were published by Vertigo showing up at other publishers, that's because the contract has run its course. But Bill Willingham said he released his version of Fables to public domain, and there was a lot of hullabaloo on the internet. And then DC said, no, you can't. And somebody who finally decided, hey, why are we taking everybody's word for it, actually went to the U.S. Department of Copyright and Trademark and saw that, yes, DC does own the trademark and the copyright to Fables. And I don't want to get into it, but if you go to Bill Willingham's website or listen to any interviews with him, he has gone way off into conspiracy land to the point where there were a number of independent creators who had known him way back in the day who were like, oh man, I can't wait to do a Fables book. Or I think John Artemis Owen even said, I have a great idea for a Fables novel. And then went and looked and saw what Willingham has been saying and doing over the last 5 or so years. And kind of said, yeah, I'm not going to have anything to do with that. Not just because of the legal stuff, but because Willingham has kind of gone into anti-homosexuality, anti-trans, etc., etc. And there are also people who work on Fables who are very quietly putting it out there that Bill Willingham may not be the most reliable narrator. The problem I have with this is it's another case of dirty laundry being aired in public rather than the people on the inside working out their differences. There are people who say that Willingham did this to sort of force DC's hand because he knows he can't afford to sue them. He said that in his press release. It's a contract dispute. He's not happy with DC. It should not be something that is out in public. I find these things sort of annoying in that, but it gives Fables all this publicity. No, it doesn't. Because I can't tell you how many friends of mine who enjoyed Fables read up on this, then started reading up on Willingham and said, I no. Because let's face it, the book targets the Vertigo audience. Vertigo was sort of the first publishing imprint that had LGBTQ-friendly comics. Sandman has a lot of gay and trans characters in it. Other Vertigo books have gay and trans characters in it. So the people who bought Vertigo were open-minded about that sort of thing. And when they go and see that a book is being put out by someone who is not open-minded about that stuff, they kind of wash their hands of it. So in a lot of ways, I think this has backfired on Willingham and maybe killing the future sales of the book. I don't know. Joe, what are you geeking on?
All right, a couple of things. I don't know when our Chicago show is going to drop. When I talk about going to Chicago, I mentioned I went to a place called Geek's Toy Hut. What I didn't mention is the front of the store had a wonderful, wonderful collage in the windows. It's a choice because it kind of, I think it protects stuff in the store, but it also blocks looking in the store. However, the collage was beautiful. They're just looking at Wolverine, there's Hulk, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Smurfs. You've got the Road Warriors. There's Refrigerator Perry, something that from, I think it's from Thundercats. And there's Batman, Superman, She-Ra. The collage was made by the Chalk Girl, the art of Beth Solsky Tobias. And on my Facebook page where I posted a lot of these pictures, you've got that little square code where you can actually go in and see her. If I had a new shop, I would I don't know if she'd come up to Minneapolis and do it, but I would definitely have her do it. So something I wanted to point out. I just thought it was brilliant. Cory, you want to hear the story of me going to a dispensary?
Sure, because when I went to one, I told that story and it was like walking into Fort Knox.
Yeah, I went to when I went to Chicago with my daughter, she wanted to make one stop. And of course, as I mentioned before, we had left later than I thought. And then of course, some of the shops I wanted to stop at were closed on Monday. But so we stopped just when we got to the other side of the Illinois border. We stopped at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary in South Beloit. Is that how you say it? Beloit?
Yes.
And it's 7000 First Ranger Drive. I guess this is a chain. It certainly looks like a chain. You come up to the door and there's a guard there. You walk in and they got the little stanchions, but there was nobody there. And we went up. You had this show. I asked Holly about this and I said, yeah, they don't really want to know why you're getting the drugs. So like you don't want to tell them, which I guess is true at the beginning. All they did was check your ID. Holly was in the system. I was not. They gave Holly a little piece of paper and that says you've been cleared to buy. I was not buying anything. because I can't buy anything until I leave federal service. Again, I've talked about rheumatoid aches and all sorts of fun stuff. Something I will investigate, but not till I'm out of federal service. In 3 years, let's see, as this podcast drops, I'll assume it drops on Wednesday, so that would be 3 days, 37 minutes as a recording. Not that I'm counting. Oh, up 3 months, 4 months, sorry. Very clean, very bright. One half of the store, if you don't, they had like the different paraphernalia you could buy. And if you didn't know, if it was your first time there, there was somebody that was there to assist you. They had a laptop, you could look things up, you could place your order, or you could place your order and just have it go up. And then you go up front, cashier's there. These people were super friendly. They weren't judging, they were just there to help. Holly, Cory, it's like if you took a friend of yours who had no idea what a comic book was and you brought him to a comic store and they stood at the cash register while you and the cashier talked comic books. That's kind of like me. I was listening, not quite understanding, just looking. I'd love to have taken pictures, but I'm pretty sure it didn't say you couldn't, but I wasn't gonna. They actually had edibles. They served cannabis flowers. You could probably get whatever you want. You could get any type of implement you needed. Oddly enough, not legal in Wisconsin. I think it's legal now in Minnesota, but I don't think they have these places set up yet.
No, they won't have any set up till next year.
Yeah.
You can purchase, you can grow it yourself. They have it on the reservations to the point where the first day it was legal, one of the reservations, the line of cars to get in was 3 miles long.
Yeah, and the reservations essentially are sovereign nations. So Minnesota can say, yeah, we're going to let it happen, but they really have no say what they do as long as no federal laws are broken, no one dies, whatever.
Although it's weird because marijuana is still illegal federally,
yeah.
So the reservations have waited until it's legal in the state.
Yeah.
And they will worry about if the feds come after them later. I doubt the feds will come after them unless the election next year goes horribly sideways.
Yeah.
Where some of the candidates are actually saying that one of the things they are going to do is crack down on states that have allowed legalized marijuana, which I think is a real easy way to lose votes.
And it's also stupid waste of taxpayer monies, but that's a different side story. I was very impressed with the Sunnyside. It was very clean, well lit, very well organized. Holly had a good laugh. She said, Dad, I've never seen you out of your element. I go, well, yeah, I'm just observing, because eventually maybe one of these Sunnysides will be up in Minnesota by the time I retire from government service or win the lottery. I'm playing that.
Here's another thing. You will not see a Sunnyside in Minnesota.
Because?
It has to be a Minnesota-owned business.
Oh, well, that's
part of the law.
So we won't see Beyond Hello dispensaries either.
No, you will only see what it looks like is that a lot of the places that are selling the cannabis oil and hemp are going to be first in line. The tobacco stores will be second in line. But part of the law is it cannot be an out-of-state business.
I'm just looking at, Sunnyside Cannabis is a franchise. So I wonder.
That'll be interesting.
I wonder about that. I just Googled that to see if it is. And anyways, by the time we left, there were about 20 people in line. And it was just, I have this phenomena where I go somewhere and I get there, and then by the time I leave, the line's packed. So we lucked out. We continued our drive into Chicago. So Holly was happy. I was impressed, and it'll be interesting to see when I can finally do it. And I'll go over to Cory's house. I'll trip with him. He'll go take a ride to Stillwater. I don't know. It's all sorts of shit will happen. Cory, what are you geeking on?
Boy, I have a huge list, but I just got to go back to that Joe Maneely book.
Mm-hmm.
I have watched Doc V talk about the stories he's choosing, Fantagraphics is being totally hands off with him. They're letting him, they say, here's the parameters, do what you want. And he is going out of his way to try to find the best copies of stuff. He is putting up examples of the scanned art and then what they do to sort of strip the color out, enhance the art, and then recolor it for the new books. It's pricey. I will not lie. It is pricey because there's so much digitalization they're doing. And this is it's what, $75 for 256 pages. And normally I would go, God damn, that's a lot of money. But this is stuff that has not seen print. Marvel does not have the film. They don't have the original art. This is almost a complete restoration of all of these stories. I am so excited about the Atlas stuff that Fantagraphics is going to put out, that Doc B is putting together, because this was an era of Marvel that I knew nothing about for years. And the more I learned about it, the more I really liked those books. Are they as good as EC? No, they're not. The stories are not at the same literary level as EC. But the art is as good. For the top tier Atlas stuff is just as good as the EC stuff. It's just that Atlas was putting out so much. And it's one of those things where when people say Stan Lee didn't do anything before Jack Kirby showed up, it shows they have no idea of Timely and Atlas. Stan was editing some incredible stuff for a publisher that was pretty, the owner was okay. The owner was a dirtbag. But he was putting together some really good comics. And I will say this until the day I die. Stan Lee was the best editor in comics. Period. End of statement. Julie Schwartz. People love Julie Schwartz. I find a lot of his stuff very bland and mediocre and very samey. He very much, everything was a puzzle story. Everything was a puzzle story, except on Batman, where Denny O'Neil was able to get him to do, no, we're not going to do puzzle science stories. We're doing mystery stories. Al Feldstein. Love Al Feldstein. Love the stuff he did for EC. His run on Mad is amazing. But he was only in comics for 5 years. And Mad, while it's a great magazine, it's not comics. They have comics in them, but it's not comics. It's a magazine. It was its own thing. Stan edited Marvel through the 40s, through the 50s, through the 60s, and he finally gave up the reins in the 70s. And you cannot tell me that any company had a better run than Marvel from 1961 to 1972. He took a company that was limited to 8 books, was thought of as barely a step above porn, and made them into the #1 selling comic publisher. Period. You can say all you want about it, but facts is facts, man. Facts is facts. You can argue about credit till you're blue in the face, but one thing you cannot say is that Stan Lee was not an incredibly successful editor who got the best work out of his artists. Kirby's work shined when it was at Marvel. Same with Ditko. You can read Ditko stuff at other publishers, and it's not as good as the stuff he did at Marvel. Same for Gene Colan. Same for Don Heck. Same for John Buscema. Same for John Romita. And the fact that we're finally going to get this stuff that Marvel really can't afford to print makes me incredibly happy. I'm such a nerdy fanboy. Believe it or not, Joe.
I don't.
We have gone on and on and on about Funny Guys for over 2 hours.
Again.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
A correction. We all know what Freewheeling Frank says, but it's no longer referred to as dope. Because as my daughter said, Dope now is considered heroin. So it's no longer dope will get you 3 times with no money. It's marijuana will get you 3 times of no money. Better than money will get you 3 times of no marijuana. We need to find a better word for that. Dope is out.
We'll stick with the other famous thing from Underground Comics, what Snappy Sammy Smoot says. Don't wee on your TV set.
That's good enough. Cory, hit my music.